Did you ever wonder what would happen if Yoriichi had been turned into a demon? How would that have happened? Would he be turned willingly or by force? If so, what would Yoriichi's motives be after being turned into a demon? And even more importantly, how strong would Yoriichi be, and how would all these impact the rest of the Demon Slayer story? Let's get right into it. So first things first, when did Yoriichi become a demon? Well, we'll assume the one who managed to turn Yoriichi into a demon is his own brother Michikatsu, or else known by his demon name Kokushibo. This happens during their encounter when Yoriichi is 85 years old, meaning that everything that happened before this does happen in our version of the story as well. Yoriichi is born, he is the talented brother, Michikatsu is jealous of him, Yoriichi creates the Demon Slayer Corps, he encounters Muzan, and almost ends him on his own. His wife and children get killed one night when Yoriichi is out helping other people. Kokushibo turns into a demon when he realizes he cannot surpass his brother by normal means. The Demon Slayer Corps continues to exist and evolve, and has an aim to defeat Muzan, and generally all the events we know do happen normally up until the point the two siblings meet. A small note here is that Yoriichi is still glorified as a legend, but no one really knows that Yoriichi became a demon. After all, it's not like anyone sees this man being a demon and lives another day to tell others. After Yoriichi becomes a demon, no one really knows about it. So what happens in the encounter of Yoriichi and Kokushibo now? Well, as you recall, Yoriichi, even at this old and supposedly weakened state, was still miles ahead of Kokushibo. It was even stated that Yoriichi was somehow still in his prime, as if a day had not passed. The moment Kokushibo tried to challenge him, Yoriichi blitzed him, and if he had one single additional breath left in him, Kokushibo would have been done on the spot. So how would Kokushibo manage to turn Yoriichi into a demon, you might ask? Well, there's a few ways it could happen, actually. The first way is by having Kokushibo offer to Yoriichi to become a demon. Obviously, under normal circumstances, Yoriichi would never accept this offer, but here, we assume that he does. As to why, well, either simply for plot purposes in order to make the video, or for another reason that could also make sense based on the canon story. But we'll explain Yoriichi's angle and what we mean by that in a little bit. The second way Yoriichi could be turned into a demon is by Kokushibo forcibly injecting some of his blood into Yoriichi, and thus turning him into a demon. We saw at least 2 occasions this happening, both with Nezuko and Tanjiro in the ending stages of the manga. Both siblings were turned into demons despite their will by having Muzan inject his blood into them. But how would Kokushibo manage to inject his blood into Yoriichi? After all, their power gap is massive as is. Well, we'll assume he either does simply for the purposes of this video, or there's another approach that's kind of more interesting if you ask me. The moment Yoriichi dies, and remember, he does so standing, Kokushibo acts quickly and injects his blood into him. Since Yoriichi's body is still warm and he's only just died, this approach brings Yoriichi back to life, but this time as a demon. He's reverted back to his prime youth body, but with the added features of a demon. And well, let's just say that this demon is about to go wild. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive into it. So someone might ask, why would Kokushibo turn his brother into a demon? After all, he hated him and wanted to surpass him by any means possible. Well, that's exactly the reason he would want to turn him into a demon. Since he fought and lost against him, and Yoriichi's now about to die, Kokushibo decides that he needs more time to surpass his brother. So the only way to ensure Yoriichi remains alive is to turn him into a demon. But oh boy, did Kokushibo miscalculate. Because if Yoriichi was stronger than Kokushibo as a human, imagine just how much more powerful he'll be now as a demon. So an important point we have to address is this. How strong will Yoriichi be? I mean, the guy was literally considered something close to a god among men, and that was literally when he was a mere human, aka the supposed weaker race in Demon Slayer. Make this beast a demon? Yeah, things are about to go down. Of course, we don't need to mention it to be honest, but yeah, naturally, Yoriichi is Upper Moon 1. So the first thing we need to explain now, what would his blood demon art be? Well, hear this. It's called Mark of the Sun, and it basically allows Yoriichi to create many suns with each slash of his sword. These suns also have the gravitational effect, and Yoriichi is in control of that gravitational field they create. Plus, being suns, they are extremely hot to be close to as well, making Yoriichi's slashes even more powerful. These mini suns being, you know, suns, aka the weak point of a demon, are incredibly powerful when fighting against other demons, but don't seem to harm Yoriichi himself as their original creator. Here we'll say that Yoriichi is not immune to sunlight. If he were, well, the story would have been over pretty quick. Muzan would attack him along with all his demons, and either Muzan would win and consume him, or Yoriichi would have killed every single demon there is and be the only demon left. So again, for this, we're assuming Yoriichi is not immune to sunlight. He just creates mini suns that don't affect him personally. Against other demons, this move is lethal. Also, Kokushibo and Yoriichi are identical twins, meaning they share 100% of their DNA. They were one split into two while in the womb. So with Kokushibo not being immune to sunlight, I would assume it's kind of a genetics thing that doesn't really depend on Mark or sun breathing and other forms of power-ups in Demon Slayer. So back to his abilities now. You can understand that given Yoriichi's abilities to create mini-suns, well, other demons tremble in Yoriichi's presence. Whereas other demons in the original story kept challenging each other when they wanted to advance the ranks of the 12 demon moons, well, no one dares challenging Yoriichi now. Remember, even Kokushibo was challenged a bunch of times into these blood matches, with the only one who ever made it out each time being Akaza, simply because Kokushibo liked him and let him live after his defeat, and thus didn't consume him. Now, would Kokushibo challenge Yoriichi? Not quite. I think Kokushibo would recognize that Yoriichi is too strong for him for the time being. He has got to find a way to surpass him before challenging him. And if you thought the blood demon art that Yoriichi got now was the only power-up he received, oh, think again, because that was just the tip of the iceberg, as we saw with Kokushibo's and Kaigaku's case. In the case where breath users turn into demons, they also carry their breathing forms with them, meaning that Yoriichi now also has his sun breathing with him, but even more potent and more powerful. Again, we're not done though. His regeneration is literally off the charts. Nothing we ever saw in Demon Slayer. Muzan level regeneration, and add on top of that as well. And remember, Muzan's regeneration was so advanced that when a sword was slashing his body regenerated so fast, it seemed as if the sword passed through him. So to top even that, Yoriichi's basically a god at this point. But how about his physical strength now? Well, as a human, Yoriichi was noted to be incredibly powerful. So, well, imagine it now. He can jump hundreds of feet into the air when he wants to. He's got unlimited stamina. He can punch rocks the size Tanjiro was trying to slash in the early episodes of Demon Slayer and just decimate them on the spot with his bare hands. Plus, his skin becomes insanely tough and durable. And well, his speed? A literal joke. No one could even comprehend how fast he moves. As a human, he could move faster than the eye could see. Now, it might as well be like he's teleporting. That's how fast he is. So taking all of this in mind, it does beg the question, would Yoriichi be stronger than Muzan in this state? Yeah, I think it shouldn't even be a question in my eyes. He was literally stronger than him as a human. Now, in a fair fight, he can crush him in an instant. But what do we mean by fair, you might ask? Well, we'll explain that in a little bit. We've analyzed how he becomes a demon, and we've analyzed how strong he is. So now we need to analyze the reaction others would have seeing Yoriichi join their ranks. For Kokushibo, well, we already said he did this in order to surpass him. Akaza would be jealous of him the same way he's jealous of Kokushibo. But unlike with Kokushibo, he doesn't dare challenge Yoriichi. Doma, on the other hand, well, he simply does not interact with him. He's a sadist and always likes playing it cool, but even he can't deny the unmatched aura Yoriichi emits. Yeah, he simply needs to stay away from him. And of course, we now reach the most important one, Muzan. How would the very man who had nightmares about him for literal centuries in the original story react to him being right in front of him now? Now even more overpowered than before. Well, the following things might happen. When Kokushibo first springs him to the Infinity Castle, Muzan is terrified when he sees Yoriichi with his own eyes. He was prepared for his coming, but seeing him in front of him, the terror is just too much. His legs start feeling weak, he starts going out of breath, his heart starts racing, cold sweat starts dropping from his face, and his mind starts to panic. Remember, the terror Yoriichi caused to Muzan was so massive that in the original story, just the earrings of Yoriichi on Tanjiro were enough to cause the cells of Muzan within other demons to react and make the demon in question panic. So here, well, all of Muzan's cells react and tremble in fear the moment they see Yoriichi. And we mean all of them, including the ones implanted into other demons. And well, pointless to mention, that's even more embarrassing for him because all of his demons that share his blood and cells feel this intense fear Muzan feels. And since Muzan can feel what his demons feel, and he knows that they felt his fear, well, we know Michael Jackson is too proud for that. Let's just say that all lower moons and below that were alive at that time, well, they instantly get obliterated by Muzan. They didn't even do anything wrong, but Muzan could not let these demons keep being alive after witnessing him be so afraid. He simply could not leave his minions knowing he was afraid, let alone of a demon that is supposed to serve him. But would Yoriichi actually serve Muzan? After all, as we mentioned, mentioned, Yoriichi is definitely stronger than Muzan, so why settle for just being a minion? Well, check this, because we're now getting to the interesting part of the video. There are actually 3 different ways the story could play out from here, all depending on Yoriichi's angle and motives once he becomes a demon. In the first case scenario, Yoriichi is consumed by Muzan's blood and thus obeys him, or he keeps his free will but remains evil as a demon. After all, Muzan can kill his demons from within. You see, we know that Muzan can kill his demons remotely from a distance without needing to be physically present. His control over his creations comes from the fact that all demons, except for a few anomalies like Tamayo and Nezuko, contain his blood and are connected to him on a cellular level. Any demon who speaks or reveals information about Muzan, for example, even something as simple as saying his name, will have his cells inside them activate and destroy them. This is an automatic process that requires no conscious effort from Muzan himself. Muzan can also kill a demon with a conscious thought if he is displeased with them. He demonstrates this during the lower rank meeting, or even when he remotely detonates Nakime's head to prevent her from being controlled by Yushiro during Infinity Castle arc. Also, in his meeting with Akaza, just being angry at him had Akaza's head almost explode. The reason it didn't was because Muzan let him go, and all of that without really touching them. If Yoriichi is under his control, Muzan could kill him at any point. At least that's what we assume in this version. Now, what happens to the actual story? Given Yoriichi's presence, Daki and Gyutaro are no longer Upper Moon 6, but are rather downgraded to Lower Moon 1. This means that when they're defeated by Tengen's squad, well, the curse that was broken in the original story no longer applies here. The boost in morale was massive when this happened in the canon story, as after hundreds of years, an Upper Moon was finally defeated. This made the Demon Slayers believe that it was finally their time to make an actual impact and defeat Muzan. Here, this not only does not happen, but well, even if they had this boost in morale, it frankly wouldn't really matter. And why is that, you may ask? Because Yoriichi is present, and there's simply no one that could defeat him, or anything that anyone might do could defeat him. Pretty much the same things as in the original story happen, but there is a big difference happening in the Infinity Castle. The reason nothing really changed up until Infinity Castle is simply because, well, the Upper Moon 3 didn't really play any part in the original story either, with the exception of Akaza that killed Rengoku during the Mugen Train arc. This is, of course, until the final arc, where they made their official battle debuts in the anime. So here, with the same reasoning, Doma, Kokushibo, and Yoriichi don't really get involved in anything until the final arc. Well, what happens now in the final arc then? Well, an extra Upper Moon is present here, and it's not just any Upper Moon, Yoriichi, and on top of that, as a demon too. So you can understand that because of that, the Demon Slayer forces are stretched thinner as a result. This means not only that Yoriichi defeats his own opponents, but every other demon does so as well, with the exception of maybe Zenitsu and Giyu with Tanjiro, simply because this group might stay the same. All the rest, they lost some members to have fight against Yoriichi, meaning they now have to fight their opponents with fewer teammates helping them, and we can all understand how that would play out. The Demon Slayers barely managed to kill the demons they did in the original story, so imagine now that their forces are stretched even thinner, meaning that all the opponents of Kokushibo, Doma, Nakime, and Yoriichi die. Well, this has as a result that Muzan is basically left to fight against only Giyu, Tanjiro, and Zenitsu, while also having by his side Kokushibo, Doma, Nakime, and Yoriichi. And yeah, we all know how that's gonna end. Muzan wins, he consumes Nezuko, and thus the demons permanently win. But wait, because this was just the first scenario. What if now we assume something else? What if now Yoriichi turns into a demon, but keeps his own free will without being controlled? In other words, he's an anomaly like Tamayo and Nezuko. But evil here is still evil, and him being turned into a devil made him evil, but somehow free from Muzan's influence. In that case, his first course of action is to claim his position as the head of the 12 demon moons. Why have someone weaker than him order him around? And since the connection with Muzan no longer works as we said, Muzan cannot simply kill Yoriichi from within, the same way he could do with other demons he controls. Yoriichi swiftly kills Muzan and becomes the new Demon King. You see, becoming a demon clouded his mind. Yoriichi now seeks immortality as well, the same way as Muzan did. The only difference is that he's much more powerful than Muzan was. Same things as in the original story happened, with the only exception at the final arcs of the show, where, well, no matter what the Demon Slayers attempt, Demon King Yoriichi simply cannot be defeated. The final arc takes place, and, well, just to make things more interesting, we're going to assume Yoriichi is poisoned as well, the same way Muzan was. So the rest of the Upper Moons have their fights during Infinity Castle in the same way as they happened in the original story. Now, the final opponent is Demon King Yoriichi, and well, no matter how many Demon Slayers attack Yoriichi at the same time, no one really comes close. In reality, Yoriichi is chillin'. His only concern is to find out where Nezuko is. He's not really worried about anyone killing him. Anyone attacking Yoriichi, well, they're sliced up into pieces. Yoriichi keeps proceeding until he finds Nezuko, eats her, and conquers the sun. son. In the end, no demon remains other than Yoriichi. But, well, he's kinda undefeated now, by any means. There's literally no way for someone to kill him at this point, and he's now also conquered the sun as well. And for the third and final way the story could play out, Yoriichi turns into a demon, but he keeps his own free will, and is also good. This case is exactly the same as Nezuko's. Here, remember at the start of the video where we mentioned that there is a way that Yoriichi willingly accepts Kokushibo's offer to become a demon while also maintaining his canon behavior? Well, Yoriichi's goal, as it turns out, was always to show his brother that even if he became a demon, he can fight Muzan's influence from within. He turns into a demon, rejects Muzan's influence, and tries to convince his brother to change his ways as well. Upon seeing this, Kokushibo becomes even more infuriated than before. Yoriichi has surpassed him yet again, even at being a demon. He was a demon for decades now, and yet the second Yoriichi's turned into one, he does what he wants, and even tries to teach him what to do. Kokushibo sees this as Yoriichi looking down on him, and let me tell you, it does not end well. He literally goes wild. He starts attacking Yoriichi, and even though Yoriichi does not want to hurt his brother, once Kokushibo goes berserk and the life of innocent people starts to be threatened, well, Yoriichi no longer has a choice. He puts Kokushibo out of his misery, and now heads out to find the rest of the Upper Moons and Muzan. Now, having part of his blood through Kokushibo, of course, he can sense where Muzan is. And oh boy, Muzan is about to witness something insane. Yoriichi locates Muzan, and let me tell you, Muzan almost passes out from his fear. Yoriichi, but now even stronger and with the ability to locate him too? Yeah, there's no way to escape. He needs to fight. So he calls all his demons to come to him at once to help him fight. And Yoriichi now is pissed, not only for everything Muzan did to so many innocent people, but also for turning his brother into a demon and basically forcing him to kill his own brother. Yoriichi destroys every single demon within a second, literally slashes them and leaves them to disintegrate while not even bothering. His eyes are cold, locked on Muzan. He sees him and Muzan knows he cannot escape. Yoriichi brings him to his knees and looks down on him as Muzan begs for his life. His little trick where he split himself no longer works a second time. Yoriichi takes a breath and kills Muzan. The story ends before it even begins, as Yoriichi goes on to end himself as well in order to rid the world of demons for good. His mission is finished, and Yoriichi can now die a happy man. That, in the very least, he managed to bring peace to the world. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and click on this video next for more awesome anime content. Go on, check it out!